I made sure I told them to read it. What you call it. They're all on ours. Okay, I don't even know what you're talking about. I tried to read up on this shit. I don't know. Socks. I don't. Morning, Linda.
No, I'm not of it. Yes.
Just think you should have budget, just something like that. Send further out.
What you see on there?
I don't want to see anything too close.
I think I'd rather be in the Bahamas.
This is kind of nice to go back to the old days, when it used to rain.
Back in the early 90s.
I can't even tell you how excited I was. I was like, this is all.
Get back to normal. It'll wash the COVID out.
Apparently it's working.
I actually like this so we can see who's online. You know what I mean?
Oh, you actually got something on here?
We get to see the,
Oh, wonderful.
if you click over to participants, that's last too, but oh, then it would be up there too.
We should have our own control. We should be able to have regular computers there. Where we can click out. Do a presentation.
Hey, stop asking for so much, man.
I know. I'm way over the top. Cool.
Pledge. Forget it. I just stressed out.
You wouldn't be the first.
I'll say it loud enough. Just drown it out.
Good morning. It is 10 o'clock. Welcome to the Donut County Board of Supervisors meeting this day, October 26, 2021. We have returned from a closed session. Joel, is there anything to report out of closed session?
Not today.
Okay. Kylie, can you please take roll?
Supervisor Hemmingson,
I'm here.
Supervisor Starkey,
I'm here.
Supervisor Short,
I'm here.
Supervisor Berkowitz, Chair Howard.
Here. All right. Would you please join me in a brief moment of reflection? Thank you. All right, Supervisor Stark, could you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Supervisor. CAO, is there any new employees to introduce today?
None today, Chair.
Thank you very much. All right, at this time, I'd like to request any deletions, corrections, or additions from board members to the agenda. All right, then seeing none, Supervisor Stark, can you please kick us off with any brief reports you may have?
I do. Thank you, the chair. So for the last couple of weeks, I attended the Cultural Competency Workshop. The purpose of this committee is to ensure development of the necessary skills, knowledge, attitudes, and behaviors and policies within our Department of Health and Human Services and the Behavioral Health Branch so that we can provide culturally responsive and effective care to members of the diverse cultural groups. I just kind of want to, every once in a while, I'm going to tell you what the working groups are to remind people. This month, the discussion was around barriers to mental health in rural and remote areas. So we got an update on the crisis care mobile unit, which I reported last time that we were able to secure that grant to begin a feasibility study. And so from there, we're going to fine tune exactly what systems we need to have in place to address our growing mental health issues. We discussed some future goals for which to include to develop the LGBTQ support groups, provide a training conference with Bridges Out of Poverty. I'm looking forward to that. Develop an inclusive planning checklist, update and improve the behavioral health webpage, and look into having more of a social media presence for behavioral health and prevention. I attended the Del Norte County Tribal Lands Building Healthy Communities 10-year celebration. And I just want to applaud all of those people who have worked so hard in the last decade to ensure that we have more opportunities for our youth. Great job. The celebration was an amazing event. I continued to organize the U.S. Capitol Christmas tree event. You guys are getting, next time you don't get to hear me say this. So, well, I'll say that I attended it. So, but this is our final reminder. It is this Friday from 9 to 12. We're going to have Sugar Bear here. I watched the virtual harvesting of Sugar Bear. And we haven't, it was reported after our last session, but our own Michael Mavris, he's a 5th grader here at Mary Peacock. He was the one selected to be the tree lighter at the nation's capital. So when that tree travels all the way down through California, across over to Washington, D.C., and then our own 5th grader is the one that gets to light that tree. So that is a highlight for Del Norte County. I was also told that the tree skirt that our county made with the recycled redwood is going to be displayed in the Vice President's office. So that's another high honor for Del Norte County. I attended the Visitors Bureau meeting. We were having great discussions about finding ways to have the Camomi story stay alive here in the community. We're considering various ideas that could maybe include a replica boat or a monument or some sort of interactive process. I participated in Sunset High School's Friday activities. And if you don't know what this is, I'm going to encourage all the supervisors to contact Tony Fabricas to see if you can tag along for that. It is this program that Sunset High School students put on for 5th grade classes throughout Del Norte County. And they provide interactive learning tools about the Western expansion. So there's mining for gold, we made butter, we made jam, we had walks through the forest. There's all sorts of things that they're doing over there that is just incredible. And so big thank you to Tony Fabricas for that. I attended a solid waste management meeting. We had further discussions regarding SB 1383 and which agencies are going to be responsible for compliance. So that should get heated pretty quick. The authority was notified about a grant opportunity from Clean California and possible projects which could qualify. I'm really hoping to partner with the Redwood Coast Transit Authority on this to see if we can't perhaps get a mobile bus unit someplace, a kiosk of some sort. I attended a Future Forward Emerging Leaders workshop. I was nominated as an emerging leader and had the pleasure of attending a workshop led by Julian McQueen, a founder of the Million Person Project, there's no dollars. I attended the Economic Summit for the Redwood Coast 2-day workshop. I attended a First 5 meeting, had some discussions about the community garden and how to make sure we have volunteers managing the garden. That was initially put there in place so that kids had a safe place to go learn about agriculture. So we're going to make sure that we are good neighbors and keep that garden groomed appropriately. I attended the local redistricting meeting. That is an incredibly interesting process about how our local committee is going to be redrawing the lines so that our districts and how they're going to look for the next 10 years. I attended the initial Santa's workshop meeting. That'll be my next project. And I met with Sheriff Waltz, County Counsel, and CA Lopez to discuss concerns about a recent article and to gather some more information about ways in which improvements have already been implemented and ways that we can still improve operations in the jail and the SL. That's my report.
Great. Thank you, Supervisor Stark. Supervisor Short.
Thank you, Chair. Apologize for not being here last meeting. And my family contracted the bug, so we had to quarantine ourselves. But since our last meeting, I attended the local mental health advisory board meeting. Last go was canceled this month, so didn't attend their local behavioral health board meeting. I attended local transportation commission meeting, along with Supervisor Starkey's solid waste management authority meeting. Listened in on the planning commission meeting, attended Capitol Christmas tree planning meeting, attended city county 2x2 in regard to Preston Island, North Coast DMS MAC meeting, just pretty routine on that one. Attended the Pelican Bay Citizens Advisory Committee meeting, but did not have a quorum, so we'll be just push that out to next month. Listen in on the city council meeting, and last night Redwood Coast Transit Authority meeting. Also been listening in on the local We Draw the Lines meetings that's going on for congressional assembly and Senate district and the local ones as well. It is pretty interesting. So going to continue to kind of monitor that. And that is my report.
Thank you, Supervisor Short. Supervisor Hemmingson.
Yes, thank you, Chair Howard. First of all, I was a little remiss last meeting by not recognizing a pretty special person. At our last RCRC meeting, the representatives of rural counties had a basket auction, and Kylie puts our basket together since she's been clerk every year with not much recognition. Our basket did very well, auctioned off for $1,900. The total amount that was raised at that auction was $55,000. So, and that goes to charity. So it's a great thing. I appreciate it, Kylie, that you put that all together. It worked out very well. Since our last meeting, had an RCRC executive meeting. Had a meeting with North Coast Resource Partnership staff, and then for the following couple, I think 2 days later, we had a North Coast Resource Partnership meeting. During that RCRC executive meeting, we have representatives that also go to NACO. They're very involved with NACO, and there was the Western Interstate Region Conference, which is going on. Randy Moore was there, who is the new chief of the USDA. So that's pretty exciting. And you know, I know Randy pretty well. I've known him since he was our regional forester, and he's going to be a good man to be there. And so that interaction that RCRC has with the WIR, which is the Western Interstate Region, which is part of NACO, that's a pretty important meeting to be at. And we're really fortunate to have RCRC represent us there. Had a proactive financial goal committee meeting. I attended Senator McGuire's homeless town hall, or attended virtually. And over the next 2 years, if I got all this information right, I think over the next 2 years, there's $12 billion that's going to be available. We have 160,000 homeless people. They're going to try to put together 42,000 units for the homeless. So we'll see how that all works out. I had a Golden State Natural Resources meeting, which is a spinoff of RCRC. RCRC has the National Home Buyers Fund, the Golden State Finance Authority, ESGJPA, which is the Environmental Services. And then the last couple of years, we've had the Golden State Natural Resources Committee. They're doing some great work, and more to come on that. Had a town hall meeting, or attended a town hall, virtual town hall meeting by the California Department of Fish and Wildlife about the commercial Dungeness crab season. And then I just got off in between closed session and open session. I was on this webinar for the Department of Fish and Wildlife, which is they had a wildlife initial assessment of marine life entanglement risk. So we're going through all that, and that's about it for me.
Great. Thank you, Supervisor Hemmingson. Supervisor Berkowitz.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yesterday, I attended the monthly meeting of the Redwood Coast Transit Authority with Supervisor Short. We approved the transit maintenance operations request for proposals. The authority appointed 2 members to participate in the selection committee, and one of them, of course, was Supervisor Short. In other actions, the board adopted the comprehensive 5-year short-range transit plan. The best bid for the service was submitted by Rodney Kraft Consulting in the amount of $18,880. Also, the authority approved the First Transit to terminate its agreement with Palm Industries for the RCTA bus deep cleaning services. Also held a meeting with former Sheriff Wilson, where we discussed what's being done to bring the sheriff's office up to date. And I also had several meetings with David Short, where we discuss what's going on and what needs to be done to make sure that we have adequate fire services to serve our community. And that's my report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Supervisor Berkowitz. Appreciate it. And last but not least, I'll go through this quick. Attended a meeting of Promise Neighborhoods grant. As you're aware, at our last meeting, the folks from True North and participating parties from the Yurok Tribal Council spoke during our public meeting about the grant that will basically bring about $30 million to our community over a period of about 4 to 5 years. It will particularly have an impact on our youth, moving things upstream and having an opportunity to bring children hope. I ended up speaking at the Zoom conference that they held as far as for the inaugural address, and appreciate their involvement. More importantly, I appreciate the involvement of all the partners that worked with True North to get this money here into our community to really address problems, behavioral problems, all kinds of mental health type issue problems that affect a youth's ability to grow and prosper in Del Norte County. And I look forward to the outcomes that these dollars will bring with the proper focus. As Supervisor Hemmingson mentioned, attended a North Coast Resource Partnership meeting. Also attended a Proactive Financial Goals Committee meeting with Supervisor Hemmingson. Conducted a gender review, and then also attended the California Japan Sister City Network, where we were invited to give a discussion on economic development. It was a great honor. This is probably the 4th time we've presented for Japan Sister City Network for the state of California. We appear to be the only county city relationship in the state that is moving economic development projects forward with our sister city. So it's rather unique, especially with Seaquake Brewing involved, and then in addition with Rumiana Cheese involved. But obviously this was not the first economic development project, and I reminded folks during the presentation that we had the Voyage of Kamomi. which was pretty neat to tell the story of the voyage of Kamome. It was a children's book that told the story of Kamome coming to our shores and being returned. That to date has sold over 3,800 copies, has been downloaded over 2,000 times, has been published in over 8 languages and soon to be published in Hmong. So it's a really, really great presentation, and hope we continue to be involved in that sister city network. Also wanted to talk briefly about some really positive news. I've made mention over the past board reports that Supervisor Hemmingson and I have really spent a great number of years, actually 3 years to be exact, lobbying the state legislature very extensively for the UC cooperative extension budget. It goes back to almost 2018-19 when UC is basically not had a presence in Donner County, and they tend to serve a natural resource-based capacity for us here in the county with that very unique relationship that we're involved with here. Fast forward to today, and the governor signed 2 months ago into law about a $70 million increase in UC extension's budget, which allowed them to get back to where they were about 15 years ago with staffing. And talking with their director of the Agricultural Natural Resources Program, Glenda Hummonston here, it appears that there'll be 2 positions given to Del Norte County here this year. One will be a position geared specifically at an MBA level to economic development, and the other one will have a kind of a choice on where that might go. But in working with Jana Valenkovic and some of her folks yesterday on a conference call, we spoke specifically about maybe what the roles of that economic development position might look like. And I'm looking forward to having somebody here focused on economic development in the coming years and what that might mean for our community. Also spoke to Randy Waltz and his staff here last week, and they addressed very quickly some issues with homeless issues up in the Big Flat area. Believe it or not, it's unusual to see that up there, but he addressed those almost immediately and came in contact with the subjects. And then as Supervisor Starkey mentioned, the Building Healthy Communities celebration. Yeah, it's wonderful. It was wonderful to have the dedication of the California Endowment, and more importantly, that program for building healthy communities and adjacent tribal lands descend on us for a 10-year period. It really allowed us, like this Promise Neighborhoods grant, to move upstream and address youth where it counts. Working in close partnership with the schools, programs like 3 Read 23 came out of those discussions. And that's really an opportunity for us to have our youth, in particular our youth that get to the 3rd grade level in our public schools, be able to read at grade level. And I know that sounds simple, but it isn't when not even half your children here in our public education system are reading at that level. So programs like this allow us to look at measurements and hold adults like us accountable in really trying to drive those metrics in the right direction. And I really appreciate the money that was dedicated really at our youth through these programs. And thank you, Supervisor Starkey, for bringing that forward. And that's all I have to report for today. So thank you for that brief update. I would like to move to the consent agenda if we can.
Move to approve.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Supervisor Hemmingson and Supervisor Berkowitz. Let's go to public comment on the consent agenda item only. Good morning.
Good morning. Norma Williams, Chapter President of the Del Norte County Employees Association, SCIU 10-1, in addressing item number 12 on the consent agenda.
Okay.
The union and the nursing staff of public health definitely are encouraged and glad to see that this is part of the consent agenda. Definitely do recommend that you approve the item, as we do believe that that is now adding the level 3 to the RN series, does now provide a clear and defined career path for not only current nursing staff, but also for future candidates in the registered nursing profession. And we do hope that it is approved. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for those comments. All right, any further public comment, Kylie, on the consent agenda that we see online?
Chair, I'm not seeing any online.
Okay, thank you, Kylie. And we'll go ahead and bring it back to the board. Kylie, can you please pull the vote?
Supervisor Short,
Yes.
Supervisor Starkey,
Yes.
Supervisor Berkowitz,
Yes.
Supervisor Hemmingson,
Yes.
Chair Howard.
Yes. All right, let's go ahead and move on to general government items at this time, where we'll adjourn as the Board of Supervisors and reconvene as the Board of Equalization and approve the assessment appeal withdrawal application for APN 120-241-022.
Move to approve the assessment withdrawal.
We have a
Second.
motion on the table and we have a second. Thank you very much. And public comment, please, on item 17 on the Board of Equalization agenda.
Chair, I'm not seeing any online.
Okay. Well, let's go ahead and bring it back to the Board of Equalization. Kylie, please pull the vote.
Supervisor Berkowitz,
Yes.
Supervisor Starkey,
Yes.
Supervisor Short,
Yes.
Supervisor Hemmingson,
Yes.
Chair Howard.
Yes. All right. We're going to adjourn as the Board of Equalization and reconvene as the Board of Supervisors and take up item number 18, which is introduced by title only, an ordinance of the Delaware County Board of Supervisors amending ordinance 2019-013 and establishing the 2021 master fee ordinance for the County of Del Norte in accordance with the Government Code Section 54985 and waive full reading and set a hearing to adopt the ordinance on November 9th, 2021, and designate the clerk of the board to prepare a summary of the ordinance for publication. Any discussion amongst the board?
Just a quick question,
Yes.
not really discussion, but
Supervisor Sutton.
this is essentially like with the budget. It opens up this hearing so that for the next 2 weeks, people can talk about this. Is that what this essentially is doing?
Yeah, this is just the introduction of the amendments that are being requested by the Recreation Department to update their fees. There will be something published in the triplicate on the 1029 issue that will notice that this will be heard on the meeting at the November 9th and presented to the board for adoption.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make sure that that's the process. So thank you very much.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Now let's go ahead and open it up for public or comment at this time.
I have a hand raised here. The chair of the Del Norte Republicans, you are on. You just need to unmute your mic.
I believe I did. Can you hear me?
Yes.
We can. Thank you.
Okay. And I'm not representing that. That's just the Zoom I have. I'm Karen Sanders. I live in the county and I'm speaking as a concerned voters, citizen, and asking humbly, but with real conviction, that the Del Norte County Board of Supervisors speak up and provide Del Norte County's stance to the California Redistricting Commission and let them know that Del Norte County doesn't align with the urban and coastal counties, and those counties don't have anything in common with us with a rural Del Norte. That Del Norte is with, I'm sorry?
Excuse me, Karen, we're on item number 18 on our agenda, not in.
You said
not in-
public comment. Oh, I'm so sorry.
No,
We're not-
no, hey, that's okay. If
I
you
thought you
want to
said public
continue,
comment. No.
I'll give you your time to read the statement. I just wanted to make sure you knew that you were commenting on item 18.
No, I did not. I heard public comment. Sorry about that.
Hey, that's quite okay. You're welcome to come back during public comment. We're going to have it
Wait.
here next.
In a minute. Yes. Okay, I will wait. Sorry about that.
Oh, no problem at all. It gets confusing online sometimes with these interfaces, so we'll work out those bugs someday. Kylie, any other public comment at this time?
Chair, I'm not seeing any at this time.
Okay, let's bring it back to the board.
Yeah, I just have one question. As we're dealing with these unfunded liabilities that we have, when we do our master fee ordinance, do we take into consideration those amounts that are piling up on us, Neil? Or no, Neil?
It is allowable when you're doing your fees. The plan for this fiscal year actually is to look into a consultant to do an actual update of the entire fee ordinance.
Okay.
This is just the Recreation Department.
Right.
Since our new coordinator has started, they've created new programs and activities that we don't have fees on the master fee ordinance to address those, as well as programs and activities we no longer offer. And so this is just updating that section.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Noel.
I'll move to approve this item. Do you want me to read it, the whole thing? or-
Do we, this is, yeah, to move it forward, waive the full reading, and you don't have to. I've already read it in the record.
All right, what Chris said. I'll move to approve.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion in a second. Kylie, please.
Supervisor Short,
Yes.
Supervisor Berkowitz.
Yes.
Supervisor Hemmingson,
Yes.
Supervisor Starkey.
Yes.
Chair Howard.
Yes. All right, let's go ahead and jump back to item 13. I know we have somebody on Zoom that is waiting, but let's go ahead and members of the public may address the board on matters which are within the jurisdiction of the board. If you are addressing the board regarding a matter listed on the agenda, you may be asked to hold your comments until the board takes up that matter. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes or less. Kylie, let's see if we can't get Karen Sanders back on the line.
Okay, give me one moment. Karen, you're back on.
Okay, here we go. Karen Sanders County, and I'm speaking today as a concerned citizen. And again, humbly and with real conviction. Do you want me to start all over again? With real
Please.
conviction that Del Norte County Board of Supervisors should speak up and provide Del Norte County stance to the California Redistricting Commission and let them know that Del Norte doesn't align with urban coastal communities and counties. That we are a rural county, that Del Norte has many lifestyles, industries, and issues that are aligned with and has an affinity with the eastern counties. Tell me, what does Sonoma, who has a population of 150,000, and Marin, that has 223,000 population and 5.2 billion parcel value, have in common with us? Our district would literally go to San Francisco. Sausalito would be the last southern county in our district. The state and assembly districts would also include Santa Rosa, which has a population of 180,000. These counties and cities within them have more population and more clout. What voice do we have? If you look closely at those that represent us, don't they do just enough to appease us? When the hard issues come, where do we stand? And I know they're do some good, but your decision to act now will last for 10 years. Did you realize that our current state representatives will term out in 4 years? Then what happens for the next 6? And it could get worse. We could have really bad representation. You need to think about that. And in the last 10 years, voters have not supported the current 2 of 3 representatives that we have at the state and federal level. You're sitting here to represent the people of Del Norte County. Decisions the Board of Supervisors is acting upon should reflect what the voters say. Sonoma and Marin don't share our issues: logging and timber, forest management, conservation, fire protection, education, healthcare. We are generational communities. Even talking about transportation, do you know Caltrans aligns with the East counties, and we have Richardson, Grove, and 199 that are bottlenecks for getting goods and services into Del Norte County. Most come off the I-5 through the 299. Looking at the public comments on the California Redistricting Commission website, people in other counties are submitting form letters as to how Del Norte County should be redistricted. Stay in the coastal communities, they're all saying. Are you going to let that happen? Your decision right now will determine the next 10 years. Most, if not all of you, will not be on the board, ongoing within the next 10 years. I'm asking that this issue be brought back on the November 9th agenda for discussion. And why doesn't anybody in this county know about it? I have talked to some, and people just don't know about it. So I thank you for listening on this. And then I also want to make a plug for tonight's public meeting on the Del Norte Redistricting Advisory Board. I just invite everybody to come either in the chambers there or on Zoom at 6 p.m. tonight, because we need help to determine the supervisors districts and we're looking for input. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Kylie,
Yes, I have more. Give me one moment.
please. Thank you.
Angela, you are on. You just need to unmute your mic. And Angela, are you there?
Yes.
We can
Okay.
hear you.
There we go. Okay, great. So thank you, Board of Supervisors, so much for public comment.
I'm calling today because I just wanted to give a critique of the recommissioning meeting that was happening last week. I attended, so because the school district is also looking at how to draw lines, as you can probably have heard. But one comment was the staff that were talking, they did not have microphones, and it was very difficult to hear what was happening in the chambers. Myself and a few other people were commenting, please have the staff mic'd. And so if you are going to, for this meeting tonight, I would just ask the IT and staff members to please have your microphones so that the people who are on Zoom can hear. It was very difficult. Even with my headphones on, I could not hear. Those who were sitting, we could hear them because they had microphones. But the rest of the people who were out, it was particularly staff, who are sitting, they did not have microphones. And so if you could have microphones tonight, that would be great so that we could hear these great conversations happening in our county. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate the heads up.
Chair, I'm not seeing any more online, but I do have one written.
Okay, please.
And it's from Mike Thornton, and it says, Dear Del Norte County Supervisors, I call your attention to an article recently published in the Sacramento Bee documenting serious problems in the Del Norte County Sheriff's Department and County Jail. While they are all serious, two of them are of particular concern: the sexual exploitation and sadistic torture of inmates by jail staff. Will you call for an independent investigation of the Del Norte County Sheriff's Department and for a public hearing to ensure that the type of abuses described in the report are not currently taking place and will not take place in the future? What is your proposal for ensuring accountability and restoring public trust in the County Sheriff's Department? Thank you for your time. I look forward to your response. Sincerely, Mike Thornton. That's the only written I had.
Okay, thank you, Kylie. Don't just stand there. Come on up. Good morning.
Good morning. First, I'd like to say, Ms. Starkey, you're absolutely incredible. I mean, the work that you do for this county is amazing. With that said, I'd like to talk about, I went to the redistricting meeting this Saturday. And I was kind of taken back. Maybe it's a good thing people couldn't hear. Because while they were talking about District 3 and moving the lines and adding numbers, one of the members up here said, oh, we don't want to do that. That would give the Indians too much power. Well, I'm sorry, but that's an inappropriate statement to make, especially when you're representing us. And I'm surprised that you folks that were listening didn't hear that. I was here, so I heard that. So if you can't hear it out there, then it's a good thing. It's just uncalled for. We're in 2021, and you know, I don't want to think that racism is alive and well in Del Norte County. Thank you very much.
Okay, very good. Looks like we're wrapped up with public comment at this time. We're going to go ahead and move on to item number 14 on our agenda, which is a COVID-19 update. I see Dr. Stutz with us via Zoom. Kylie, can you please
he's coming on.
Dr. Stutz join us? There he is.
Hi.
Good morning, Dr. Stutz. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you guys? Thanks for having me.
We're doing wonderfully well. We're enjoying the rain.
Yeah, let's talk about that a little bit. So, and the COVID data. So first, I'll just give you guys a brief update of the data from the last couple of weeks since we talked last. I think a primary concern on the community's minds was the talk about removing the mask mandate, and then I kind of held off on that for the past week. There's a good reason for that. I just sort of saw an interesting leveling off of cases over the last week or two, which I think was probably due to the colder weather and the rain bringing everybody indoors. And I wasn't surprised to see that little bit of a bump in numbers. So we had an average from October 18th to October 24th. That was a little bit higher than the previous week. It was 34 cases during that time, which is about a 26% increase from the week prior. So rather than continuing to downtrend, we did level off. a little bit higher than what we had been seeing before the surge. That kind of happened all over the state, especially counties that were, getting a lot of rain and cold weather. So not a super huge surprise. There's some other interesting bits of data from this last week. We had about 54.5% of those cases were in people younger than age 20. And about 22% were over age 50. So a real trend in younger people contracting COVID and becoming a reservoir for COVID in the community. Also, probably again because of school starting and its impact on transmission in younger people in the county. However, there's some encouraging things over the last month. I mean, we've been generally trending down. Our for the week prior to last week, we actually got assigned to the orange tier, CDC transmission level orange, which was great. That was kind of one of my targets for removing the mask mandate. However, I don't think that's going to stick. I think during the next round of numbers, I think the CDC is going to put us back into red. Just to give everyone a general feel of what's going on in the state and in the country, most counties in the country and most counties in our state are in red. There's a few counties that are in transmission level yellow, which is moderate. And very few are in low. And so I'm not really surprised that this has happened to us. I just think that it's good to notice that happening when we have a good reason for it, so the public can get a feel that there is actually some data that we're looking at and we can see environmental impacts of the weather, of our interventions, of our actions on these numbers in a very realistic way. So that's how we're making these decisions. It's not all based on, my personal feelings about it or a whim. It's about following the numbers and what I think is going on in the community. So the other really encouraging thing is we have very few people in the hospital with the diagnosis of COVID or COVID related diseases. As of this morning, there's only one that I knew about, and this. So that's also really encouraging. And I've in discussing masking with some of the other county health officers whose communities we interact with frequently, Humboldt, Trinity, Siskiyou. We've been interested in coming up with some sort of metric to decide when to recommend or when to remove the masking mandate, just to give everybody sort of a target. And after many weeks of discussion, it was clear that every county is different. Every county probably needs its own metrics. But that probably some of the three most important pieces of that metric should include, our CDC transmission levels. And as I said, we're in the orange tier. That makes me happy. The other one would be vaccination rates. We are just shy of 50%, and we had been going up at 1% a week, but that is sort of tapered off. If you add our total vaccinated, which is about 49 to 50%, to our partially vaccinated, which is about 6 to 7%, then and you assume that those partially vaccinated are indeed going to get fully vaccinated, then I assume that in the next 4 to 6 weeks here will be somewhere around 55%. That would be an ideal situation. So for me, that's my target. With that number, I'd really like to see 55% of our population fully vaccinated. I initially said 60, but I think 55 would be acceptable. And then the third criterion would, that I already talked about, would be that our hospitals are not being overrun by COVID patients. So we've essentially met for this week, we've met two out of three of those criteria that I would like to see. The only remaining one would be the vaccination rates in our county. I think the small population in our county actually has a number of impacts on how I interpret this data that the CDC is giving us. For example, the transmission rates are whether we're in a moderate or substantial or low are highly impacted by just a few number of cases in our community because of our small population. The denominator in that number is in the calculation of that number is so small compared to some other counties that just a few cases will throw us over into a higher tier. For example, we could have 10 cases in a week, and we would be in the moderate category. We could have 20 to 30 cases in a week, and we would be in the substantial to high transmission rates. So I feel like a one-size-fits approach for those numbers is a little bit unfair to smaller counties because you get one large family that all contracts COVID, and that might throw the entire county into a different level of CDC transmission. So for those reasons, I'm willing to accept an orange level of transmission, and especially when the rest of the state, almost the rest of the state, is in red level transmission, and all the counties around us as well. I think we're doing relatively well. But again, I do think that number is going to go back to red level transmission here because of the weather and the increased cases. So I think I would like to ask the community to extend this masking mandate until maybe we can squeeze out a few more percentage points of vaccination. I think if you look back from our case numbers from last year, from when we were in fall and winter, somewhere around mid-November, we had a little bit of a surge at that time. And that lasted for about a month or a month and a half on into early January. I do expect to sort of see that again, just not to the levels that we saw with this initial surge over the summer, which was probably more Delta related. I still think most of these cases are Delta related, but I also think that due to the interventions and the fact that it's worked its way through much of the community, that we're not going to see quite as high of a surge over the winter as we did before. But that's what's making me hesitate on the masking issue. Just that I saw this bump in numbers, and I do expect there to be a little bit of a bump from fall and winter. So I'll take any questions that you guys have.
Sure. Thank you, Dr. Stutz. Any questions from the board at this time? Supervisor Stark.
So I have to do it. I'm sorry, Dr. Stutz, but this is going to be super frustrating for our community. We had the masking order. We did what we were supposed to do. We got those numbers down. We got our hospital under control. We were told that when we did that this would be lifted. Now, I'll tell you personally, I'm fine wearing a mask. I'm totally okay with it, but there's a lot of people out there that aren't. And I need to be able to speak up and voice their concerns as well. Is there any chance that you can consider it instead of a mandate to be highly recommended, or, to make it optional for people? Because I think that our public they responded. And if we go back up, I think they would respond again. But I feel as if we kind of moved the finish line a little bit. And I know this isn't over, and I so appreciate all the work that you're doing. Your logic makes sense, but I feel compelled to speak up on behalf of the people that are going to be very frustrated with us continuing this mask mandate.
Any other comments from the board at this time?
Yeah, if I may.
Please, Supervisor Short.
Dr. Stutz, you talked about the one criteria that we hadn't met yet, and that being the vaccination rates. Noting that the vaccinations rates have been slowing down, I kind of wondered what your intent was if we didn't get there. I'm kind of kind of dovetailing off of Supervisor Starkey's sentiment here. I believe it was 2, maybe 3 meetings ago. You kind of said that we were a couple of more weeks and this mask mandate was going to be lifted, or you intended to. So I think she said it most eloquently. I think the finish line's been moved. So I was just kind of wondering what, if you didn't have that last metric met to your satisfaction, I just kind of wondered where we're going to go from here.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. I've been struggling with this for several weeks now. The thing to remember here is that all we're doing is asking people to get to mask. Like it's not like we're asking people not to go to work or, quarantine at home, unless they have COVID, right? I mean, it's not a huge thing that we're asking. Like I just have a really hard time understanding. I understand people are frustrated and want to go back to their normal lives and things, and they're not used to wearing. It's such a simple thing that we're asking. Like you wear a cloth mask, when you're in public. You don't have to wear it at home. Like, we're not asking people to quit their jobs or stay at home like we were in 2020. So, yeah, what will happen if we don't get there? I mean, I'll be bummed out. Like if you have any question about about how well the vaccine works or does not work, I mean, all you have to do is look at the counties that are in the yellow tier in California. Those counties all have vaccination rates in the 70s and 80%. And if you look nationwide at the counties that are low transmission, they're either really, really rural and they don't have very much population to transmit the virus, or they have really high vaccination rates. So it is an important piece. Our numbers do tend to sort of track alongside some of these other counties that we're trying to team up with on this issue. And it's a simple thing. It's such a simple thing. I mean, why the frustration over this simple thing? I understand people don't want to be told what to do, but we have to stop at stop signs and we have to get our cars registered, and we can't just do whatever we want to do in society. And this is such a simple thing. So yeah, I do understand the frustration, but I don't understand the intensity level with this. So
Supervisor Hemmings.
Yeah, Dr. Stutz, thank you. I appreciate all the work you're doing. Having to do with vaccinations now and our percentages, as soon as that the vaccine is approved for the younger children, that expands the number of vaccines. So it's going to change the percentage, right? If those kids don't get up to, if the kids don't get vaccinated, is that going to change our percentage?
Oh, you mean, so we'll add those people into the eligible?
Exactly.
No, I mean, I would be happy even if it were just a total number of based on our total population. So I'm not going to move the goalpost on that one. But I do, that's another thing I would like to talk about. I think the FDA was planning to meet today on that issue, and we may have an answer at least from them on emergency use authorization for Pfizer for ages 5 to 11. So something for people to watch out for. We're gearing up for that to be approved, because I'm sure that it will be. And then those will be available shortly thereafter. We've already been able to place orders for vaccine for those age groups. And since, given the numbers that I quoted before, that we were, somewhere over 50% of our new cases have been in people younger than age 20. And in fact, many of them were younger than age 10. It's probably a good idea to consider vaccinating your children when and if it gets approved. So,
and do you have a sense of when those vaccines will be available? You said you got the orders in. About how long does that take?
Well, so it goes through FDA approval for emergency use authorization, and then from there it goes to the ACIP committee with the CDC to tell us, how we should use this in that age group, and then from there it usually goes to, there's a committee of Western states that reviews it again. That has really only been the case for these COVID vaccines. So, you know, I don't know, a week or two after the FDA approves it, it should be a green light.
Great, thank you.
Supervisor Berkowitz.
Dr. Stutz, are you saying that as soon as we reach 55%, we'll be able to delete the masks? Or what percentage and when we reach that percentage, will we be able to remove the masks?
Yeah, so that's my current target. I'm trying to give people a target here, you know, to work towards, so that we have some hard and fast numbers, so that it's not all just, you know, up to my personal interpretation, you know. And, you know, that would be my ideal number, because if you consider the number of people that, again, that are partially vaccinated, that's somewhere around 6 to 7%. Assuming most of those people, or, you know, the majority of those people get fully vaccinated, they get their second shot, we'll be at 55% in no time. So that's the group of people that I'm trying to encourage to get their second shot. Does that make sense?
A second shot, do you mean boosters, or do you mean second shot, literally, they haven't finished a Moderna or Pfizer vaccine?
Literally, they have not finished their original series.
Okay. Great. So I guess I understand the question you're asking, necessarily basically for board support of a continued mandate. And I'm hearing obviously the level of frustration folks are expressing here, but I don't think it's unreasonable to ask for the board report, given just where we're at today. And I know we've gone through 2 months of a very scary time for our community. And we've seen a course correction, which has been positive in nature, no question about it. And whatever you account that to, whether it's vaccinations, whether it's masking, whether it's the rainstorm and social distancing, we turned a corner. So, you know, having that support by the board, I know is not needed for you to do these mandates, but I would hope the board understands your logic, and more importantly, that we have turned a corner and we no longer have a freezer van outside of Weir's Mortuary with members of our community in it. So, Dr. Stutz, for me personally, you know, it's not too much to ask, and I understand the frustration of our community. I had these conversations with members of our city council recently who have been big supporters of yours. So I just, yeah, maybe a couple more weeks and we turn that corner and really get it down to a manageable level. But at the same time, do understand the frustration, but we are having success, and time will tell how much success we get to. So appreciate what you're asking for here, and I, for one, join you in supporting a little bit more time here.
If I could just chime in with one more thing. So in talking with many of the other health officers, there were many more criteria that were brought up as additional criteria that should be that we should hold the county to decide to remove masks. And many of those things I felt were just extremely untenable for our county. One of those things was to have the vaccine available for children for 8 to 12 weeks. I mean, there were examples like that. There were criteria that were proposed that I just felt were too unreasonable for our population to bear with. And these are the most basic, easiest targets for our county to hit that I felt they were realistic. And they were applicable to Del Norte, and wouldn't unfairly punish Del Norte for being a rural county and not having, you know, the kind of access to healthcare that other counties do, and the kind of vaccination outreach efforts that other counties do. So, of these criteria that I'm mentioning, these are the most lenient that I could possibly think of.
Yeah, no, and we appreciate that, Dr. Stutz. Thank you for bringing some sensibility to this discussion in otherwise turbulent times for this community. So appreciate your report today, and we look forward to having you join us at our next monthly meeting.
Chair, are we going to do public comment?
We will, Kylie.
Okay.
Is there hands up?
Not at the moment, but
Okay, very good. Then appreciate your time, Dr. Stutz. Thank you very much. And we look forward to joining us in a couple weeks.
Thank you.
All right, let's move on with item number 15 on our agenda at this time, which is a Public Lands Act presentation. I think we have Greg Burns from Thorn Run Partners with us today, and potentially Senator Padilla and his staff. Okay, do we have Greg Burns?
Greg Burns is here, but no staff.
Well, I would love to see Greg Burns. I mean, smile, there he is, his smiling face. Good morning, Greg, or good afternoon to you at this time.
Yes, good morning. You're right, it's 2:00 here in Washington, but that's okay. So I think it was May when Chair Howard, you and Supervisor Hemmingson first became aware of a bill called the Public Lands Act, which was introduced by Senator Padilla. At that time, you all requested through county staff that the senator's office come to one of your board meetings and make a presentation about the bill that they had introduced, and that they engaged in some conversation with you all during one of your meetings. So frankly, since June 1st, I have been communicating with Senator Padilla's office, both in Washington and in Sacramento, as recently as yesterday afternoon, and thought that I had secured their participation in this meeting today. Unfortunately, they indicated yesterday afternoon that they have a policy internally that if a meeting is recorded, they cannot participate. So I was unclear, apparently, that this meeting was going to be recorded. I thought that was a known fact for a public Board of Supervisors meeting in California, particularly and so they are not with us today. But I would like to take a few minutes to just talk about the bill. I think it's worth talking about for 2 or 3 minutes. And then I'd like to seek some feedback from you as to additional direction that we take, either in engaging with their office or others, or engaging in other ways. Let me start by saying that the Public Lands Act is really a collection of 3 separate bills that have already passed the House. One of those bills was introduced by Congressman Huffman. I actually think during the last Congress, I believe that at least some of you engaged in conversation with Congressman Huffman's office at the time relating to the bill. I want to share my screen briefly with you, if I may, so that you can see broadly these areas that are part of the Public Lands Act. Now, remember, I said it was a collection of 3 bills. The first being what's known as the Northwest California Wilderness, Recreation, and Working Forest Act. That, again, is a Huffman bill. And then we have 2 bills that deal with areas in the southern part of the state. I'm going to scroll down here and then try to zoom in just a tiny bit so you guys can see more clearly, I hope, the area in the original Huffman bill that would more directly impact Del Norte County. So you can see these green areas here. I'm not sure if you can see my mouse cursor, but what they're doing in what is being proposed by this bill is to take already federally public lands and simply turn some of them into wilderness areas, and then investigate the possibility that other areas might be made wilderness in the future. So that is for Del Norte County, that is the sort of federal lands impact. Based on communications that I've had with county staff before, it was thought that the designation as wilderness might have little significant impact in those portions of the county, but that ultimately these designation changes could be perceived as being redundant and could also potentially have a negative effect on fire response due to access restrictions. So, that's the sort of the land change. I also do want to note that this bill does contain a couple things that I think are worth mentioning. One, the bill, again, that already passed the House and which now has been introduced by Senator Padilla. It's been co-sponsored by Senator Feinstein. It does have some other provisions that are relevant to Delaware County, and I just want to make clear that we note those. One is that the bill would authorize the construction of an interagency visitor center in Delaware County. Now, that doesn't guarantee the construction. I just want to be clear, but it would authorize the construction should federal funding in the future become available. Two, the bill would direct a trails study to potentially improve motorized and non-motorized trail opportunities in Del Norte, but also in a few of the other counties surrounding you. And three, it would direct that a feasibility study be created or be completed, excuse me, to study mountain biking trails in Del Norte County. And then it would authorize, again, not necessarily fund or mandate, but it would authorize the construction of those mountain biking trails should they be deemed feasible. So again, we had hoped to have Senator Padilla's staff, both from Washington and from Sacramento, on this presentation with me today so that they could offer their perspective on the bill. And then, you all could have a dialogue about, broadly public lands issues and certainly this bill. They were unable to join us this afternoon or today. One other thing, the bill was heard in committee in the Senate last week, if I remember correctly. I think that's right. And, there's no immediate plan for that bill to move forward. But, certainly the Biden administration, I think, as you are aware, has suggested that they would like to, do more to protect more lands. And I think that this bill would fit into that sort of talking point. So it is possible that it could move at some point, either the remainder of this year or even more likely sometime next year. So with that, I'd appreciate any feedback. And if I wasn't clear in this presentation about what the bill would do, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have as well.
Sure. Appreciate that, Greg. Thank you for that quick summary. I know Supervisor Hemmingson is ready to engage.
Yeah, we've had these discussions. We've had these discussions with Congressman Huffman's group, and we had concerns in the beginning, and some of those concerns were addressed. Others were fell on deaf ears. The whole thing in Del Norte County is it's putting restrictions on top of restrictions. And we keep going over this that there really isn't a clear reason why, and then they lay out all these potential wilderness areas. Now they're moving, well, this is a potential wilderness area. Now we're going to keep looking at that. Well, when they put out a potential wilderness area, that means they're going to protect it like it is wilderness and until it becomes wilderness. So those are a great concern. The other issues that you mentioned, the positives in this bill, there is no funding. This is not an appropriations bill. We hounded on that as make it an appropriation bill. And they kept coming back to us, well, if we do that, it won't pass. Well, there's a good reason that it won't pass. There's no money to do what it should be doing. We've made the point that we have a national recreation area plan that is outdated and has been outdated for 10 years, and they're putting no money towards that in updating that plan of the restrictions that they put on those lands already. And so, these are just, I don't know, these options that they put out there for, oh, look at these enhancements we're going to do. We're going to build you a visitor center. Well, they're kind of hollow. We've been through that before. So, I don't really have a whole lot more to say. I've been harping on this for, 10 years. So it's getting a little old.
Supervisor Berkowitz.
No, we've been through this before, quite a while ago. In fact, it got so bad that they created the thing called the Sullivan Doctrine. The Sullivan Doctrine said there will be no net loss for Del Norte County. any of these federal takeovers. And I believe that this is a federal takeover. We have no positives here at all. You know, we may be able to get some kind of appropriations, maybe. That's all they're saying. And yet, you know, we're seeing more and more of people or legislators trying to take more of our land. And I think we need to say, no, we need to stop this before it gets a total takeover. That's my point of view.
Very good. Supervisor Short.
I couldn't agree more or put it more eloquently that, yeah, seeing potential wilderness areas or wilderness areas being more wilderness areas being promulgated or discussed here in Delaware County is something I am not in favor of either.
Thank you, Supervisor. Supervisor Starkey, you have any thoughts to add?
I don't feel like I'm educated enough to really offer anything. I think that you guys have a history. You guys have been down this road. I would need to rewatch some of those discussions so that I could be able to provide something of value. I've just read this bill. I just heard Mr. Burns's presentation. And unfortunately, that is the extent of what I know. And I don't feel I have enough to provide any kind of educated comment.
No, very, very good. And I could appreciate that. And I think with time, you'll come to understand exactly the level of frustration that Supervisor Hemmingson speaks to. I know we've worked for multiple years. Most recently, we've had public meetings on this at the Del County Unified School District offices to have these public forums that we express the concerns to our federal representative, in this case, Congressman Huffman, as Supervisor Hemmingson alluded to. And like you said, a lot of this turns out to be hollow. The level of frustration I think we're having, and more importantly, the pushback that we as a board need to continue to at least stay on track with, is that these designations that we're having are almost a relic of the President's Northwest Forest Plan in 1994. This is a conversation I do plan on having at CSAC because it presents a methodology that's very difficult in our day and age of forest management to stomach. And it's a methodology or philosophy of preservation. And preservation basically eliminates man and management from a forest. And as we have seen over the past decade, especially with man's handoff approach from the forest, we've seen a very strong increase of fire coupled with changes in climate that have produced catastrophic firestorms throughout not only the state of California, but the United States, because of practices that the folks have become to accept over decades. We really need to change how we approach these philosophies in the United States if we're going to even become a tool for change in forest management to prevent these fires. And it's right now, it is about prevention. It's not about being proactive. And if you look at alone the Forest Service budget, we've been trying to tackle for years, and we've had to do it other ways. Supervisor Hemmingson sits on the Stewardship Council, him and Grant Worskell chair that. We've had to go outside the box just to get the resources into our national recreation area, which makes up the largest portion of public lands in our county. And that should not happen. It's because all those resources from our feds are dumped into fire prevention annually. So there's nothing left over to spend here when the day comes to utilize what this ground was designated. National recreation area. We don't have anything. So nonprofits, other folks pick up the gauntlet, they run with it, they do their mountain bike assessments, they try to put in tracks to do what that land was designated for by Congress. And yet we continue to fight these endless battles of fire here. And without taking a step back, realizing man needs to be part of this equation if we're going to get out from affecting the entire United States and the world with noxious gas pollutions from these fire offsets that affect literally everybody in the state of California, we're not going to have that change. And in having conversations with UC Cooperative Extension, folks that have now retired from CAL FIRE that have realized the errors of our ways, and even our ex-governor, who I'm hoping to attract to have a statement like this made at CSAC this year, I'm hoping we could begin to change our philosophy of what it means to manage our force, what it means to be a steward, and what it means to be a good partner. But this legislation, as Greg Burns has stated, does nothing to help our Forest Service manage those lands. To even think that they can't even pack a mechanized piece of equipment into this country to help battle potentially a fire, they have to bring an axe because it can't run by motored power, is absolute insanity. And then to have the hollow promise, because this is not an appropriations bill, with, oh, maybe you'll get a visitor center, these trade-offs that are supposed to comfort us, it's tough. And there's a reason why we've pushed back so long, this board, and most importantly, Supervisor Hemmingson and I. And well, Senator BT is here to help Congressman Huff's probably guarantee his legacy, to put more lands and wilderness here that are going to do nothing in the long term for Del Norte County. So I know that was a long-winded summary, but this is a very much something that lights my fire. No pun intended. So is that clear enough, Mr. Burns?
Yeah.
I understand. I will only add that the senator's office, did say that they would like to speak with you in a more in another meeting.
Okay, we'll be happy to. If you want to arrange it ASAP, especially if this is coming to a vote soon, then I think we're more than happy to engage. We have a natural resources committee here, and that Supervisor Hemmingson and I sit on, if that needs to be the forum, whatever works. But we're more than happy to engage since they have this goofy policy.
Understood, and thank you.
Yeah, appreciate your time, Mr. Burns. I'm going to go to public comment real quick before you leave. Kylie?
Chair, I'm not seeing any online.
Okay, very good. Bring it back to the board. Thank you, Mr. Burns. Appreciate your time today. Have fun in DC. Hope to see you someday soon.
Happy Halloween.
Thank you all.
Yep. Bring your yarn out. See ya. All right, we're going to move on with item number 16 on our agenda, which is a timed item to review and discuss the Treasury report for quarter ending September 30th, 2021. I see we have Ms. Lopez with us here today. Good morning.
Good
Barbara.
morning. I feel like it's been over a year since I stood here. It's nice to be here, even though we're masked up. I hope you can hear me okay.
We sure can.
Good. I'll be brief. It's been kind of a quiet quarter. So this is my treasurer's report for quarter ending September 30th. Our portfolio actually ended with a $72 million balance, $72,383,281 to be exact, which is quite high. I expect it to be higher as we keep getting some more funding in. I've kept our liquid account, the local agency investment fund, fairly high, just to kind of make sure that I'm liquid enough in case spending does come through. There's about 29.7 million in that account. CDs are 14% of the portfolio at about 10.5 million. And our government agency bonds are holding at 36.5% of the portfolio, which is about 26 million. And our mitigation fund is staying steady as we get repayments from the Bacher loan at 3.06 million. So this is my maturity snapshot. I was kind of playing around a little bit with the yield. Rates were super low for quite some time, so I kept things in RAFE. But then I started seeing 5 years pick up a little bit, so I decided to go ahead and pick up some 5-year longer call protection investments. But then I started seeing the 3 years pick up. So I thought that would be a good balance to actually purchase some shorter term that are, beating RAFE at this point, but also trying to keep as liquid as possible for just some future spending, not knowing where we're going to be in the next year or so. I don't want to lock in, 20 million in 5 years. That I just don't think is prudent and safe for us right now. So unfortunately, interest earnings are slowly dwindling. It's still, I think, a great amount, but as you can see from third quarter 19, we're at, 286,000. Now we're down to 161,000. But that just goes to show you how low LAIF has become. And then as things are called, with those higher interest rates, then we're losing that better rate. So we're losing that better interest. But I'm positive. I think things will pick up. Maybe obviously not what they were a couple years ago, but I'll just keep plugging away and hopefully get that back up to 200,000 for the benefit of all the funds. You can kind of see where interest rates are. When I did this, I was actually surprised because I looked at last quarter and they haven't doubled, but they sure have gone up. I mean, the 3-year couple quarters ago were 0.2%. So I was pretty excited to see things picking up. So again, that's one of the reasons why I decided to pick up some 3 years and beat LAIF and get a little bit more interest. 5 years are above 1%, which is great. I try not to do too many callables, but when we haven't had yield in so long, so I thought it would be nice to see something a little over 1% in the portfolio, assuming things will get called, but at least we can have, a year or two of nice interest coming through. And again, not too busy. I did some 5-year, 1-year calls, some bullets. And you can see just as of September 27th, some of those 3 years were at 0.5%. Now we're at, 0.8%. So things are picking up a little bit. We just had one maturity, which was nice. Nothing's been called. So it's pretty quiet, but I did just this month, I've already got a couple new things over 1% that I purchased. So we'll report on that next quarter. So cash flow. This is kind of ugly. July was pretty crazy, but we also did have a good cash flow in June. I think our June cash flow was almost 8 million, so it offset. But I just don't think it would be prudent of me to give you my assumption of what next quarter's cash flow is going to be right now. I'm just going to stay, somewhat liquid, just kind of see where things are going. But for all the department heads that are listening in, I'd love to have some conversations with them if they think that they're going to be spending some of that CARES fund money and in the schools, just so I have an idea of what's going to be coming through, so I can not leave as much liquid and get a little bit more interest, but I don't want to get us some hot water if I need to sell anything. So so if I could just ask the departments to just communicate with me and let me know what the budgets look like for this upcoming year, that would be much appreciated. Other than that, taxes rolled out last week. I'm sure everyone got their bills and we're busy, and TOTs hopping. We have great TOT quarters so far and things are looking good in our little office. If you have any questions, I'm here.
Supervisor.
Yeah, thanks,
Sure.
Barbara. That's a great report as always. So it's always nice to see you. I'm surprised that the departments don't get a hold of you. Do we have a policy on that? Maybe that's.
Yeah,
should be
nothing
part of
written.
our-
The auditor's office is great. If we have a huge check run, they'll let me know when things are large, but that gives, I only need half a day notice really to pull money from LAIF to get that deposited, but I'm more looking at, this year, could you let me know if you have some big
Right.
items that you might be spending that are maybe sitting in a fund that has just been kind of idle for a while? Then I know.
Maybe.
I really feel like it's the schools that I would like to have more communication
Oh,
with, but
Well, yeah,
been working on it
can't have much
for
control
years.
over that, but maybe you could, maybe you could come up with a plan. Could you give us, if an amount, a date, or whatever,
Mhm.
put it all together and maybe put that out there and maybe
Yeah.
get them to adhere to that.
Yeah, I have in past years. I thought I would just put that plug in again, just because things are a little bit
Sure.
uncertain right now, but yeah.
Anyway, great job. Thanks.
Thank you. All right.
Very good.
Okay, thank
We're
you.
going to open it up for public comment real quick on this item. Kylie, is there anything out there?
Chair, I'm not seeing any at this time.
Great. All right, that ends our timed items. We're going to go ahead and move on with item number 19 on our agenda. Reauthorize Supervisor Berkowitz as county's representative to the National Association of Counties Public Land Steering Committee with term ending July 30, 2022. Supervisor Berkowitz.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to request that we combine items 19, 20, and 21, and it'll become clear in just a few minutes. For the past 3 years, I've represented this board as your representative to the National Association of Counties on the Public Lands Committee. During that time, there have been several attempts to add more of our land to the federal government, basically as we saw today. At every turn, I've been vocal in this attempt due to the board's rejection of these attempts as put forward by this board's Sullivan Doctrine, saying that we should make every attempt to reject attempts to put more of our county into federal lands. One of the NACO's requirements is to be on the Public Lands Policy Committee and to attend the National Legislative Conference and the annual conference. This is an important meeting that brings together county board members from every state in the union. Due to my persistent voice problems, as you can tell, and now due to the fact that it is not advisable for me to be in large crowds due to my medical condition, I'm therefore requesting that you have another member of this board replace me. As both Supervisor Hemmingson and Supervisor Howard have emphasized from their meetings with CSAC and RCRC, that making contracts is important. And we've done that for the past 3 years. It's the same with NACO. Knowing who the players are and who controls the agenda and the purse strings is important when we act with one voice in Washington, D.C. It is my suggestion that we not give up our seat on this important NACO committee and that we appoint one of our new members to this board to take my place so that we don't lose out on all the important things that affect us on the Public Lands Committee. And that's my suggestion, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Supervisor Berkowitz. Any thoughts, comments from the board at this time? If not, I'm going to go ahead to public comment. Please, public comment.
Well, now we got a bit of a problem because obviously, Mr. Howard, you and Mr. Hemmingson are the most knowledgeable sitting on the board to take this on. So I don't think that Mr. Short or Ms. Starkey have the knowledge that either of you two have. So please, please take into consideration that maybe one of you go. And I don't know how that works or anything like that, but I'd rather have somebody that knows something than to take people and put them in a position that they're snowballed. You need someone with a strong voice. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Kylie, is there anybody online with us?
Chair, I'm not seeing any.
All right, we're going to go ahead and bring it back to the board for discussion.
Well, I'm a little uncomfortable discussing something that's not on the agenda.
Yeah, understood. We'll have to.
So if we're going to remove these items from the agenda, then let's remove them. And if we want to put something on the next agenda, then we should do that.
Understood. And I think, Joel, with some clarity from you, is that the correct course of action, given the nature of the items for Supervisor Berkowitz?
I think that's the safest thing to do. If you did want to just do it now and amend those, I think the public has noticed that you're appointing or discussing an appointment, but it is very specific to Supervisor Berkowitz. So I would say the best thing to do is wait if it's not time sensitive.
And there's no urgency to this.
No, I don't believe it is time sensitive. We'll have Kylie follow up. I appreciate the discussion and support Supervisor Berkowitz has shown in this. Obviously, NACO has played a role in the past in Del Norte County politics, more importantly in Del Norte County's lobby Supervisor Finnegan in the day. He reduced a lot of cost associated with NACO because he attended via a representative through CSAC and RCRC. So a lot of the travel expenses and budget associated with NACO did not exist. It does today, given the nature of how NACO works, and that we don't have somebody like Supervisor Finnegan in that role with CSAC and RCRC currently. So there would be cost to the county.
I do have a question of Supervisor Berkowitz. What is this Sullivan Doctrine that you keep alluding to? What is?
Well, I read in previous board minutes, basically that Supervisor Sullivan was so incensed that more and more of our land in Delaware County was being taken over by the federal government, that he came up with this Sullivan Doctrine that said that we would oppose any more federal intervention in taking our land here in Delaware County and using it for some kind of federal whatever.
Yeah, that was actually Supervisor Finnegan who brought that forward. And that's what confused me about the Sullivan Doctrine. We were all, I mean, we're part of it. We were, as a board, we voted that in for taking fee title lands and not and having them tax exempt, which in the case of the Forest Service is not the case. They're just putting restrictions on top of what's already restricted and already not fee title land. So it was just confusing to me a little bit. So I was curious as to what the Sullivan Doctrine is. I have no problem with calling it Sullivan Doctrine. I'm good with that.
Yeah, I had heard that it was done when Sullivan was chairman. And he called it the Sullivan Doctrine.
I don't think so, but
okay.
It's all right. Well, very good. Thanks for answering those questions, Supervisor Berkowitz, and the discussion. We'll go ahead and take a look at this offline on these 3 agenda items and bring it back if necessary, Kylie. So remind us of this for our next agenda review. Let's go ahead and move forward with the legislative and budget issues where we consider miscellaneous legislative and budget matters potential to the county of Del Norte, and authorize the chair to sign and send appropriate letters with respect to matters pending before the state and federal governments. CEO, anything?
Nothing for this meeting, Chair.
All right, very good. Then it looks like we're going to adjourn until our November 9th, 2021 meeting. Stay dry, but thank